believe Cuba makes the 15,000 threshold, so we have to talk about a consortia application. But for everybody else, if you've already been receiving Perkins dollars, build your application on your current year award amount. You build your application that way. You're going to somehow get the pre-award notification for your July 1, which allows you to begin to obligate and seek reimbursement if you have full approval of the grant application. If you have substantial approval of the application, you can't seek reimbursement just yet, but you can obligate with a substantial approval. Then when you get the final notification in October, I think that's when your business offices are saying this seals the deal. But Kathy, I ask you to go back to your business manager and say, so how do you deal with this in your other Title federal programs?
I've got Mary to set up a meeting again.
Okay? All right, good. So we'll come back. Questions? In the meantime, lunch is provided right back here in the corner. There's some beverage. What's this? Sign-in sheets. Okay, I was going to address it after lunch. They want me to address it right now. So sign-in sheets, some people didn't sign in today, so if you didn't sign in, please go outside and just make sure you sign in so that we have an accountability of who's here. On a second note is that in Mary's presentation, she had asked for volunteers to serve on that task force. That particular program of study document evaluation form you see, we're trying to develop a technical assistance document that institutions can use to evaluate their own programs of study. What we're asking for is for volunteers of a secondary and post-secondary school partnership to pick one program of study, come to us, work with us in a task force manner, and let's evaluate that program of study using the tool, and then identify, does it capture what it should? Does it fail to capture what it should? Does it recognize success? Does it really identify shortfall? And let's dialogue about that tool before we release that statewide and technical assistance to say, here's a comprehensive tool for determining implementation of your program of study, and does it meet those particular standards necessary for a program of study? That's what that's really about. Come and ask me more questions about it if you're interested. For no further ado, let's have some lunch, and we'll regroup right on the agenda.
And I want
Maybe not.
a closing comment here. I know you all are getting hungry, but I have one closing comment about release of the application. So thank you for indulging me. Well, some of you picked through the choices of the meal there, but keep in mind what we need to do is send you an email with a secure login and password. So we want to hear from you each this week who is going to be the point of contact at your institution. Now, if you've always maintained the login to SCORE, there's no change. You don't have to contact us. But if you're going to have a different person be the point of contact in SCORE, we need to know who that is so we can send an email to that individual with your secure login and password. And we need your help so we can release that link to you. The sooner the better, no later within the next week, okay? So help us help you. Thank you. Thank you to my colleagues as well.
Kind of programmatic stuff that goes into your application and your appendices, and the hard data that we looked at a little bit yesterday, the outcomes, the numbers, and how do we put what you're doing every day in the classroom together with the outcomes. So I'm going to just kind of briefly hit on what I hope are some of the big points that have already been made in multiple presentations today. And then hopefully we can do a little bit of fun stuff as groups. So at this point, we are starting hopefully to develop a really clear feeling of what Perkins is about. And there's a lot of different definitions that float around, but I thought this one was helpful, that it provides students of all ages what they need in order to succeed in careers and become lifelong learners. Those are buzzwords, especially lifelong learners. But what activities can we do in our CTE programs that help build that. The other thing that you have heard that hopefully we have started to emphasize, I know especially Louise yesterday was trying to make a point of this. We kind of had to have a little bit of an abbreviated session yesterday morning. But it really does take a team in order for this to happen. If you have a Perkins grant administrator and they're operating in isolation, they are probably not going to have the kind of success that will show up in your outcomes, in your indicators. It's going to take more than one person writing a grant application and getting checks, right? This isn't just a money thing. Hopefully it's more programmatic than that. And so one of the key things that we want to encourage is that you, as leaders, build the ability to communicate with your team. That your Perkins grant administrator, your fiscal people, your visionary people, and your CTE teachers all kind of come together, and then kind of that vertical alignment between the secondary, the post-secondary, and industry, and build those communication relationships. And then the last point here, this is my own personal thing, I really hope that you will encourage, as you learn more about your data, that you will think about building PD for your team so that your whole team can think about your data. Numbers do not come naturally to everybody, and in our data-driven world, most of us need to up our game a little bit. And so think about how you might be able to help support your team so that everybody's not just going, I don't know how to get from 42 to 48%. Let's see if we can help build those skills so that more of your people know how to do that, so that more people are thinking about that. So know your students, know your data. I'm a data person. You might have caught that Dr. Stone, who was here earlier, is a data person. You know, we quantitative types really feel like you can get some good insight by looking at your statistics, looking at your numbers. For the secondary, you have those 8 indicators. For post-secondary, there are 6. Those should be giving you some real insight into what you're doing right, what you're not doing right, what you could be doing better. Here's a couple of other resources that you might find helpful. School and district level performance. I gave you the website yesterday, the PED data, so that you can look at your own school. You can look at your partner school. If you're secondary, you can look at your post-secondary data. If you're post-secondary, you can look at your secondary data. If you are, curious about what the school across town is doing, you can go look at their data. That is public information. And now that you have a better feel for how to use that tool, poke around and see what else you can figure out. This is just another place for you to find that address. There's also another way to think about your data is comparing your CTE students to your non-CTE students. Depending on how you slice and dice it, you can find that your CTE students are much weaker or that they're much stronger than the non-CTE students or the population as a whole. And so those are really interesting stories to explore and to get more data. So within the PED website, if you go to the assessment and accountability section, you can see the test scores, the SBA scores by grade, by sub-level, by subgroup. So you can look at gender, you can look at race, you can look at all of our special populations and see what your school's are doing on those SBA tests. How many kids are testing proficient, how many are testing above proficient in each of those groups. And then finally, you may be interested in what other states are doing. You may have some sub-program that is especially relevant to some competitive state. Maybe you're in a community that is trying to lure an industry into your community. And so here's a location where you can look at other states' data to see what they're doing and how does your school stack up to what other states are doing. So there's some resources for you. Are you recording, Barbara? Where's Barbara? Will somebody press the record button on that? You see this box up here? That means it's not